A warm welcome to TV Africa News. This is Africa Today. My name is Najuma Lima, but first are the headlines. Police UPDF again top list of perpetrators of violence against journalists. Minister Sempija cautions farmers on post and after harvest for best feeds. Parliament passes health insurance bill. In sports, India's band to descended CD athletes seek sporting glory. Now the news in detail. The Minister of Agriculture, Animal Industry and Fisheries, Honorable Vincent Bamunangachi Sempija, has addressed the media at Media Center in Kampala on planting season, issues concerning Uganda maize and post-harvest handling. He said the increased falling of food prices on the market, which has produced a challenge to farmers, has been caused by the effects of COVID-19. Our reporter Kachanchu has more.
While addressing the media in Kampala, Minister Sempija said COVID-19 has caused a lot of damages on agricultural sector where farmers can no longer supply foods to the local markets, including schools, hotels and other sectors, and also incapable of selling to the regional markets due to the effects of COVID-19.
It is strong enough, but we are saying, well, before even planting the seed, first get the right fertilizers, and the fertilizers that people use must also be recommended by the extension staff. First apply the fertilizers, then you cover the fertilizer, then put on the seed. So normally in our way of doing things in the villages, we have three people. One is making the holes. The second one is applying the fertilizer and covering the fertilizer. Then the third one behind will be the one to plant the seed.
He advised farmers to ensure proper recommendation post-harvests of crops and always ensure harvesting after maturity stage, including proper handling of crops hygienically, and seek advice from experts to ensure best feeds.
The whole value chain of maize must be looked at closely. Maize, we start from planting. Maize must be planted in proper rows and spaces that are recommended. But you know, some of our farmers don't use machines. Many of our farmers use hands. That's why we come and inform them that please make sure that during planting you observe the those recommended methods and observing also the recommended practices when growing maize. It starts from
Minister Sempija advised people to eat proper foods produced in Uganda, which helps in building the bodies, including matoke, fish, cassava, potatoes, amongst others. He also commended those farmers who have started adding value on their products, that the government will support them to ensure proper produce on the market, including maize farmers who are already facing the same challenge. TV Africa News, Kachanchu Mtabazi reporting.
The Uganda Police Force has again been listed in the first position of perpetrators of violence against journalists, according to a Press Freedom Index report 2020, which has been released by Human Rights Network for Journalists Uganda. Let's have more.
Police was responsible for 104 cases out of the total 174 violations against journalists recorded, most of which were perpetrated during the recently concluded election campaigns. The Uganda People's Defence Forces comes in the second position with at least 31 cases, mostly perpetrated during the implementation of the presidential directives to contain the spread of COVID-19, which was first confirmed in the country in March last year, according to the report. After UPDF comes Community or Mob, accused of assaulting journalists who allegedly did not show support for their preferred political candidates during political campaigns. During elections, the Inspector General of Police, Martin Okoth-Ochola, came out and refuted reports that the police are targeting journalists covering elections that have been marred by violence, arguing that security personnel have been using reasonable force to retain the press for their own safety. The journalists who are injured are Mr. Ali Mivule of NTV, Mr. Ashraf Kasilie of Ghetto TV, and Mr. Daniel Rutaya of NBS.
Away from that, Parliament has passed the long-awaited National Health Insurance Scheme Bill, which seeks to provide universal health care to all Ugandans. Our reporter Katende has more.
The passing came after the members rejected Health State Minister in charge of general duties, Robin Nabanja's motion to withdraw the bill. Honorable Nabanja said the Minister of Health, in collaboration with the other stakeholders, is undertaking further consultations and analysis of the premiums based on the interim actual study conducted by the IRA in collaboration with the Minister of Health in 2019. However, Mr. Nabanja declined and moved the motion for the second reading of the bill shortly after she left the Parliament. Mr. Patrick Nsamba Oshabe, the MP for Kasanda North, questioned if Parliament could continue to debate the bill in the absence of the minister. The members, however, led by State Minister for Finance in charge of planning, Mr. David Bahati, agreed to move the motion for the second reading of the bill. Dr. Michael Kenya, the chairperson of the Parliament Health Committee, said the controversial clauses that had held the bill were removed as more consultations are being done. The bill had earlier proposed that employees in the formal sector would be subjected to a 4% deduction from their salaries, while their employers will contribute 1% to the health scheme. Individuals in the formal sector will be required to pay a proposed shillings of 100,000 annually. This received opposition from some sections of public, especially workers in the formal sector, who said they are burdened by various taxes. Parliament also agreed that the scheme would be implemented in the phased manner since the government cannot get all the resources at once. Data from the Ministry of Health indicates that the total annual health expenditure stands at shillings 7.5 trillion. Of these, 15% is from government funding, 42% from donors, 41% from individuals when they fall sick, and only 2% from prepayment mechanisms. Katende Chabasinga reporting for TV Africa.
Moving on, media practitioners have been advised to make good use of social media if they are to fulfill their ambitions. This was during the awarding ceremony of the top 20 most influential and admired media personalities at Kabira Country Club, Bugorobi, Kampala. Our reporter Nalugo has more.
In his address at the awarding ceremony of the top 20 most influential and admired media personalities, the chairman of Public Opinions, Mr. Isakato, cautioned media personalities on their use of social media, which may affect their future.
So please handle it with the responsibility it deserves. You have got to be responsible. This is our country. You have to be patriotic. Before you communicate, think about what you are saying, because you cannot recall what you are saying. Please, if I don't emphasize this, we'd have lost a great opportunity where I have so many respected media players in one room. Harness the power of social media.
Mr. Kato also recommended for peace and unity among his people for the development of the country.
Whatever challenges you have had, you are disgruntled after the elections, you have hope. Tomorrow will be better. But when a society loses hope, we're in trouble. We had lost hope because we thought no one could remove Idi Amin at that time. That's why we should always hold President Nyerere in a special place. The role he played when he said enough is enough. The rest of the world was laughing. Our friends in Europe, in America, they were laughing. They thought that Idi Amin was a clown, but he was killing us systematically. The state killing its own people. That is a terrible thing. Probably the worst thing, when you cannot go and report to the police when something has gone wrong, because the police are the ones meting out this damage. So let's cherish our peace. Let's respect whatever we have, the rule of law. It may have its weaknesses here and there, but we've got peace in this country. And let's build on that. And you have a key role to play as media. Many of you are very young. You have a bright future, but cherish the peace you have.
A number of media personalities were awarded, including Mr. Andrew Chamagero, Mildred Tuhaise, Simon Kagwanjala, Danstan Busura, Kanar Mugume, Samson Kasumba, among others. The award ceremony was organized by Public Opinion in appreciation of media personalities committed to attainment of Uganda Vision 2040 and the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals UN SDGs. Nalugo Muyingo, Africa Today.
Let's take a very quick short break. We will be right back. Welcome back. You're still watching TV Africa News, The Right to Know. Several people have been arrested in connection with the coup attempt in Niger, while others linked to the event are being actively sought, according to the government spokesman Abdulrahmane Zakaria. Let's have more.
Abdulrahman Zakaria, the government spokesperson, on Wednesday afternoon condemned the cowardly and backward act aimed at jeopardizing democracy and the rule of law to which his country is resolutely committed, as evidenced by the last democracy, free and transparent elections welcomed by the entire national and international community. The government said that Niger's security forces thwarted an attempted military coup at the West African country's presidential palace overnight, just 2 days before the newly elected president is to be sworn into office in a peaceful transfer of power. The coup attempt raises fear of more violence, coinciding with the newly elected President Mohamed Bazoum's inauguration on Friday, coupled with threats from Islamic extremists near its troubled border with Mali. TV Africa News, Kachanchu Mtavazi reporting.
Moving on, authorities in western Libya released 120 fighters from a rival Eastern force on Wednesday, the latest move towards reconciliation in a United Nations-backed peace process aimed at ending years of violence. Let's have more.
The men were fighting for the 107th Brigade under the command of Eastern military strongman Khalifa Haftar, who in April 2019 launched an offensive to seize Tripoli from a unity government. In a speech, Abdallah Al-Lafi, vice president of the country's new presidential council, welcomed the move and called for further reconciliation and rebuilding. After a recitation from the Quran and the singing of the national anthem, the prisoners were released and reunited with their families amid loud cries. In October, they signed a truce, setting in motion a UN-led process that saw a new transitional government installed in February. Libya has been ravaged by bloodshed since the assassination of revolutionary leader Muammar Muhammad Abdul Minya al-Gaddafi in a US NATO-backed 2011 revolt.
Away from that, International Criminal Court appeals judges on Wednesday upheld the acquittals of former Ivory Coast President Laurent Gbagbo and former Minister Charles Blé Godi on charges of involvement in deadly post-election violence. We have more. Both Gbagbo and Gode were acquitted in 2019 of responsibility for crimes including murder, rape, and persecution following disputed elections in 2010, with judges saying prosecutors failed to prove their case. Prosecutors appealed the 2019 ruling, saying the decision to acquit was wrong and asking appeals judges to declare a mistrial, but the appeals panel rejected all their arguments. Gbagbo and Blé Gode were released following their acquittals, but returned to court for Wednesday's hearing. Presiding Judge Chile Eboe Osuji said the panel rejects the prosecutor's appeal and confirms the decision of the trial chamber. more than 3,000 people were killed after Gbagbo refused to accept defeat by his rival, current Ivory Coast President Alassane Ouattara. Away from that, supporters of former Ivorian President Laurent Gbagbo reacted with joy at the International Criminal Court on Wednesday, upholding his acquittal on appeal on charges of crimes against humanity, paving the way for his return home after a decade away. Let's take a look. Celebrations appear to have begun early overseas after the acquittal of former Ivorian President Laurent Gbagbo on charges of crimes against humanity. Jean Ose, a Gbagbo supporter, said that the whole of Africa has just been liberated, especially Cote d'Ivoire. Jean added that such a day will remain engraved in their memories and will even be more when prisoners will all be freed. Victorian Tibresson, the leader of women Gbagbo supporters who appears relieved, said that he is no longer in the dock after Gbagbo's release and acquittal. Apia Asmien, a youth leader, feels vindicated when he learned that all the conditions against President Laurent Gbagbo and Charles Blake Godet have been lifted. Moving on still, the Gandama Wholesale Shopping Center and Ruby Mart in Yangon, owned by the country's military, went up in flames hours before dawn, although no one has claimed responsibility in these trying moments. Let's take a look. Local observers have expressed doubt on social media that anyone not associated with the military could approach the heavily guarded buildings after the 8 p.m. curfew. The implication is that the security forces may be looking for additional reasons to clamp down on pro-democracy protesters in the city. Following a United Nations Security Council meeting, the UK's permanent representative at the UN has told reporters that the council will continue to discuss next steps. China's permanent representative Zhang Jian said that China is working with all parties in Myanmar to build a consensus and maintain national stability and development. Let's once again take a very quick short break. We will be right back. Welcome back. You're still watching TV Africa News, The Right to Know. In our business news today, one of the largest underground uranium mines, the Akaunta Mining Company, Cominac, a subsidiary of Orano Cycle, a French multinational which has been active in Agadez province in northern Niger since 1978, has ceased production. Let's have more.
The Akuta Mining Company, Cominac, which carried out its last blast on March 25th, ceased production yesterday, March 31st. This current nature of the industry is due to a collapse of uranium prices in 2007 following the Fukushima nuclear disaster. The closure of the Cominac mines, where 600 employees and 700 subcontractors worked with over 200 kilometers of galleries exploited at a depth of 250 meters, was carried out under unsatisfactory conditions for concerned NGOs. Many of these non-governmental organizations denounced not only the social cost, but also a heavy legacy that could have health and environmental consequences. Niger has large deposits of uranium, the fuel for nuclear power plants, which is sought after countries who possess them. The mines will have produced 75,000 tons of uranium up to this year, 2021.
In our health news today, Cameroon has begun vaccinating people against cholera, the waterborne disease which recently resurfaced in the Central African country after going several months without reporting a single case. Let's take a look.
The Ministry of Health in Cameroon has said that it is targeting to vaccinate 33,600 people, mostly urban dwellers, ever since last March when the disease was detected with 1,890 cases reported. James Longsy, a public health specialist, said that teams from the Ministry of Health are visiting suburbs to conduct sensitization before handing out the oral vaccines. In the Upwe district of Douala, vaccinations teams have been greeted by a reluctant public, with some people questioning whether the vaccines are not repackaged COVID-19 jabs. The vaccine is being given to women, men and children aged 1 year and over. Cholera is a serious acute infectious disease characterized by watery diarrhea, vomiting and can kill a person within hours. TV Africa News, Kachanchu Mtabazi reporting.
And in sports, Rohit Majagul has weathered racism and rejection in India as part of a marginalized community tracing its roots back to Africa, but he still dreams of bringing sporting glory to his country. Our reporter Katende has more.
The 16-year-old is part of a group of teens practicing martial arts in an overgrown and sun-baked field near a remote hamlet where his family ekes out a precarious living on Manyoreba. Growing up around open drains and swarms of flies in Jabbar village, he and other members of the local Sidi community were abused for their distinctive dark features and curly hair. Majagar, a school dropout, sees his judo training as the only way to escape a life riddled with growing poverty and discrimination. He said that he has been thrown off the bus because of his color, but he quite endure everything because he wants to do well in sports and carve his own identity. Majgal won silver in judo at the Asia Pacific Youth Games, a great push for his Sid community, which is believed to have descended from Bantu peoples of sub-Saharan Africa.
Now, before we end our news bulletin today, let's take a recap of our top stories. Police UPDF again top list of perpetrators of violence against journalists. Minister Sempija cautions farmers on post and after harvest for best feeds. Parliament passes health insurance bill. In sports, India's Bantu descended Sidi athletes seek sporting glory. That was the news. Thank you for always keeping it TV Africa. Please do stay tuned. More programming coming your way.
This is Africa, and that was the news.